The only thing I didn't like about this episode, to be honest with you, was Hey fellow Force users, what is up? It's Jasmine, the Ahsoka channel fan, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So, okay, time for another episode of The Bad Batch. Last week's episode obviously was a good one. It was actually quite dark, and to be honest, I appreciate that. I appreciate that they show us the dark side, no pun intended, of the story, because it's a war. That alone means that it should be dark at certain times. And if it wasn't, it wouldn't really be realistic. And some people will still try and say it's a kid's show, right? Not even close. We got to see the side of Crosshair we've never seen before. The Bad Batch obviously are supposed to be, the good guys. They're helping out people across the galaxy. They don't really follow orders necessarily. They kind of have their own morale as to what is right and what isn't right. It was tragic and shocking just to see Crosshair do that. I know some of you were also talking about how that elite squad was potentially giving us a look at the early establishment of the Death Troopers, which is very much a possibility, and I could certainly see them heading in that direction. They're showing us the post Order 66 era and setting up the Empire, kind of like what they did with the prequels, right? That was the whole reason they had the Clone Wars, was to kind of give us more backstory as to what happened between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and how the Jedi ended up falling and how the Empire came to be in the first place. Yet a bunch of new characters introduced in the Clone Wars that kind of opened our eyes a little bit and broadened the story, like Ahsoka. And I like that they're doing the same thing here with characters like Omega, and Admiral Rampart. He's no doubt going to have an important role going forward. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Wrecker, because in the last episode, he must have mentioned about 4 times at least that he hurt his head, and I don't think that was by accident. I don't think that the writers would do that unless it had some other meaning, and so my thought right away was that something might have happened to his chip. So maybe we'll see that in this episode. He might temporarily turn against the Bad Batch or something like that, but hopefully if that happens, they're close to meeting up with Rex so that he can help them remove their inhibitor chip so that wouldn't happen. But I definitely think that is not the last we've seen of Wrecker and his head hurting. And I also liked reading your comments about Omega as well. Some of you mentioned in terms of what her skill might be, that she might have a skill that is kind of a combination of all their skills, which is highly likely, because we did see her pick up the blaster in the first episode and shot it no problem, even though that was her first time shooting a blaster. And we saw her track the Moondragon just like Hunter did, and she picked it up right away. And one of you talked about if we see her lifting weights with the droid like Wrecker does, that'll be a confirmation that her power or her skill is in fact a combination of all their skills. I'm starting to think that they might kind of wait to show us Omega's skill a little bit longer. I don't know, maybe like halfway through the series or towards the end of the series. It might be one of those big reveals, so to speak, but I definitely am looking forward to that nonetheless. And then of course there's Nala Se and Lama Su, and we see them getting into a little bit of trouble here because the Empire, under Admiral Rampart especially, is definitely looking at replacing their clones and getting recruits instead, which we all know is, gonna end up being one of their worst decisions ever. We see them at the end of the last episode talk about wanting to keep the cloning business, so to speak, afloat. They're looking at maybe creating some type of super clone, but they need one of the clones to do that, and they're talking about how they're not going to willingly comply. And so of course that raises the question as to whether or not Omega is going to come into play here somehow, if they're going to need her for this new experiment, and is it going to be a situation where she comes back willingly to them? Or, you know, is she going to be abducted somehow? I know my friend Jedi Jive, he talked about this as well, how she might be abducted. The Bad Batch might have to rescue her. Anyways, there's lots to speculate, lots that can happen. But I am looking forward to this episode. I can see that it's called Cornered, which doesn't sound good. They might come into contact with Crosshair again. He might have them cornered that way. Or it could have a different meaning as well, because we know these titles have multiple meanings, like cut and run. You know, something else might happen that maybe they disagree on something, or I don't know. So I won't speculate too much longer. Without further ado, let's get this video rolling and see what's in store for us. Pantora! Oh, shoot. Don't touch anything. Oh, does she know Pantora? Nice. I like how Tech is just so resourceful. He can just do anything. He's definitely the kind of person you want on your team.
I could skip that step.
Oh, payment.
You said you'd skip the step. The financial variety.
Well, tell me once more.
Pleasure doing this.
He's lucky Record didn't just smash his face.
Bar 6 at Row Station.
What a snitch.
Word on the channels is you're looking for a certain modified polychrome.
Fennec! Oh my gosh. Whoa.
I'll make it well worth your while. Transmit the coordinates and make sure they don't leave.
I don't know how to feel. I'm excited to see her, but she's coming after Omega, who's my favorite. Oh shoot, I didn't expect to see her so soon. Whoa. But I bet you she's gonna end up working with them somehow. Wow. So do you think that the Kaminoans hired Fennec?
Not dressed like this. All right, let's get moving.
She's so cute. Man, that other guy's a little snitch, eh? Just took their money and ratted them out anyway. Wrecker should have beat him up. So I wonder, are we going to see Senator Chuchi from the Clone Wars?
What are they celebrating?
I was going to ask the same question. What are they cheering for?
Chain code post.
They have no idea what they're really cheering for, man.
Changing quicker than I
But the war is over. Isn't that good?
depends which side you're on.
So true. Oh man, Hunter, you better keep Omega close.
Just tell me what to rip out.
Does he think he's a droid? He does, doesn't he? Oh no, maybe not. Sorry. Oh, he does.
So I thought you droid.
Yeah.
Droid. He's a military prototype.
Oh, how are they gonna get out of this?
No, you can't be serious. I am worth more than 2,000.
Oh, he's catching feelings. Omega, stay, child.
Hello there.
Don't go anywhere.
Wait.
Oh no, don't be that kid that's chasing after their doll. I knew it. Fennec's there. See, I wonder if she did that on purpose. Had them go by or something to distract her. The droid voice. What did I just say? He has to keep her close, man. That guy.
Sorry.
I remember him from the Clone Wars season 7. Don't trust her. No. It's Fennec.
Well, fine.
No, don't go with her. Just go back. You were running in the same direction. Just go back. This is not good. Sounds so much like C-3PO. Is that Rex, that little doll?
Sorry about that.
She sees a weapon. Don't be obvious about it, though. Pretend like you didn't notice.
Thank you. You're so kind. My mistake.
She definitely took some.
Here. Now that's the best offer I've had in a long time.
Oh, man. Okay, so...
Come on. This way.
So is she gonna try and work with them to infiltrate them and then betray them, or is she gonna just take her right now?
Omega, step away from her.
Why?
Omega, duck and run, man. Ah, shoot. I wonder if he knew who she was. He must have known she was a bounty hunter at least. She's not being very discreet.
Wrecker, easy with my ship.
Your ship. He's after the kid. Yeah, we'll see about that.
I'll tap into the central security network.
Where did she go though?
Enough cameras in this.
Did she just take her?
Ship ready to go.
Well, it's not technically a ship at the moment. And unless you have a team of maintenance droids, it's going to be a while.
Oh, Echo
I
does.
can help with that. Gear up, fellas.
I'm not capable of removing our restraining bolts.
That's why I'm the supervisor.
Step aside, Karen. I love when they have these storylines where where they meet up with droids and the droids end up helping somehow. Kind of like A Friend in Need from the Clone Wars. Season 4. She's just getting further and further away from Hunter. How did Fennec get there so fast? Shoot. I'm still worried about Wrecker though. With his chip. I don't know.
Get to the ship.
Okay, personally I feel like Wrecker should be able to take her. Easily. But we'll see what happens. What? Are you freaking kidding me? How does Wrecker take multiple people but he can't take one woman? Come on. I'm not buying that. But he did hit his head again, so is that foreshadowing something again, like with his head bothering him and his chip being potentially malfunctioned? Oh, that droid's so cute. Look at his little arms and legs. What's Omega gonna do? Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's gonna take that. Let's turn into Grand Theft Auto real quick. She's trying to abduct her, right? Not kill her. Abduct her, I think, for the Kaminoans. I don't think they're gonna get Omega back. I think... Not in this episode, anyway.
Find Omega.
She's probably gonna escape with her. She's pretty smart, you know, Omega. He's jamming out while all this is happening. White M's on their trail. Just kill that guy. Whoa. Cold. Oh man. Damn. Cold-blooded. I do not know how this is gonna end. I still think Fennec's gonna escape with Omega and they're gonna have to rescue her in the next episode or something. And part of this was in the trailer, I think. That was too close. Oh, this is where she has that cool landing. Or this landing, yeah, from the trailer. Oh, she's hurt, she's limping.
Oh, I'm missing all the action.
Droids to the rescue. He hit his head again, man. What a double dipper, eh?
She has to be a bounty hunter.
A what?
Someone hired to retrieve targets.
Oh.
And you appear to be the target.
Me?
Have to find out who she is and who hired her.
The Kaminoans, I'm telling you. Oh.
No, wait.
Is she gonna kill him? Oh.
If they come back, you know how to contact them.
Okay. Interesting. Fennec Shan, that was quite the surprise. I don't know why I didn't see it coming this episode, but I definitely did not expect to see her so soon. Yeah, I mean, you could just see, like, she's definitely kind of cold-blooded, and I like that we're getting to see how she was before. She shows up in The Mandalorian. She's gonna be a character, arguably, that goes through many changes, right? Because she's this way now, and then in The Mandalorian, when we first are introduced to her, she's kind of like how she is in The Bad Batch, but then after she dies and then, you know, gets saved by Boba Fett, then she becomes kind of good. And so I like that we're getting to see all sides to her character, but I definitely think that the Kaminoans are behind hiring her because they want to bring Omega back so they can use her for that experiment I was talking about at the beginning of the video. This is definitely testing the Bad Batch. For one, they're not used to looking after a kid, but now what do you do when the kid you're trying to look after is a target, which, you know, ultimately places a target on all of their backs now. And we're gonna get to see how far they're willing to go to protect Omega. I guess this was the right shirt to wear because Omega's a wanted girl now. Something else I liked about the episode as well was when Omega said, "The war's over, isn't that a good thing?" And then Echo said, "It depends on what side you're on or whose side you're on." It just ties into this idea, which is something that we've seen time and time again in Star Wars. For every conflict there is, it always depends on what lens you're looking at that conflict through. And that will determine who you see as the oppressor and the oppressed and so on. So I really like that line. I like the exchange that Fennec and Omega had when Omega saw her blaster and she automatically assumed that she was a soldier. It showed that Omega is naive, as expected, because she's young and she's been on Kamino her whole life, so she has a lot to learn about the way the world works. And she just kind of looks at it as, well, the people that I know that carry blasters are soldiers. She doesn't really know any different. And even when Hunter at the end of the episode mentions the term bounty hunter, Omega doesn't even know what that means. So it just shows, again, how young she is and how much learning she still has to do, much like Ahsoka in the beginning of the Clone Wars. And it wasn't until she met people like Lex Bonteri and his mother Mina Bonteri, or like the Martez sisters, that she actually got her perspective broadened and realized, wow, there's so many different sides to this. And this war is not as black and white as it may seem. Even though Fennec is a danger to her and is presumably trying to abduct her, she did kind of teach her a thing or two in that exchange by saying, "I carry it to defend myself." I think it also kind of lets us see that Fennec isn't necessarily a bad guy. She just kind of goes wherever the money goes, which we can say is the case for a lot of characters in Star Wars. Even Mando in The Mandalorian, he kind of started out as questionable. He was just kind of, you know, going after whatever targets he was hired to go after. So I kind of like that we got to see that side of Fennec, which we will later see more of, obviously, in The Mandalorian. I don't know if it's just my imagination or not. I can't tell if Wrecker was slightly more irritable in this episode compared to the last one. Or maybe I'm just watching him extra closely because I know that he hit his head in the last episode, kind of at the beginning. He had a couple of exchanges with Tech that made me think, oh, is something happening with him, with his chip? And then, of course, Fennec hits his head once again against the wall during their fight. So I don't know. I still don't have a good feeling about Wrecker in terms of his chip going forward. I definitely think something's going to happen with that. But it is truly nice to see his commitment to Omega. Both him and Hunter, I would say, have the closest relationship to her. They really are kind of like father figures to her, kind of like uncles. And he asks multiple times, you know, where's Omega? And he always seems concerned when it comes to her. So that's just really nice to see the relationship that they've built, Wrecker and Omega, as well as Hunter and Omega. And I still think that one of the Bad Batch could die by the time this season is over, probably in an attempt to save Omega. And the fact that they keep having these scenes with Wrecker specifically going out of his way to rescue Omega just makes me think that he could potentially be the one that ends up sacrificing himself. I like that we got to see the Pantorans again. We did see them in the Clone Wars before. We know that, remember that whole episode where the chairman's daughters were kidnapped by the Trade Federation, and then Ahsoka and Senator Chuchi had to go and rescue them. And so that was cool to see them again. I love how they're bringing characters and concepts that were shown to us in the Clone Wars back into the series again. It just makes the story feel a lot more whole, a lot more continuous. In many ways, I felt like this episode kind of bore similarities to The Mandalorian. Not only did we see Fennec Shand, who obviously was first introduced to us in The Mandalorian, but you have that whole concept of trying to go somewhere uninhabited first, but then having to stop for a supply run and ship repairs, being pursued by bounty hunters, and then having to protect the child. And I wonder if they kind of did that on purpose. It again just makes the story feel a lot more continuous and connected. These aren't necessarily separate shows that we're seeing in separate movies. They're all part of the same franchise, telling the same story, but from multiple perspectives. I like the episode title, Cornered. If you think about it, our characters are kind of stuck in a corner this whole episode, right? They're trying to go somewhere uninhabited, but they can't do that because they ran out of rations and credit, so they had to stop somewhere first. They also had to use Echo as a droid because they had no other options, and that's kind of what it means to be cornered, is when you're stuck in a situation, you have very few options, right? And speaking of droids, I like that they showed us the droids coming together to help save the day. We've seen that before as well, right? In season 7 of the Clone Wars, the droids are what helped Ahsoka and Rex escape, and then you have the Clone Wars season 4, the droids helped again with Ahsoka, Lux, and the Death Watch. I like when they show us everybody coming together for the same goal, and then together they end up getting out of whatever situation that they're in. Omega gets stuck in between Fennec and Hunter, and then she quite literally gets chased down and cornered, hanging off of the tower and such. The little snitch guy at the end of the episode gets physically cornered by Fennec Shand. Now the Bad Batch are being pursued by multiple enemies. You have the Empire and Crosshair, along with the Elite Squad, and then you have Fennec Shand now. So they're literally being backed into a corner as well. And so it definitely had a lot of meanings. The episode title, Cornered. The only thing I didn't like about this episode, to be honest with you, was Wrecker versus Fennec. Wrecker should have been able to take her easily. He's physically strong. He is their muscle. He's punched holes in walls. He's lifted tanks and ships. He's easily pulled and pushed things that would normally take, 5 people or 10 people to try and move. And he's an enhanced clone. He can take on many clones and many men. And you're telling me that one woman can just toss him to the side? I'm just not buying that. That was the only thing that kind of irritated me a little bit. And something similar happened in The Mandalorian as well, with Casca, Reeves, and Boba Fett. They made it look so easy for her to just take him down. It doesn't really make it that realistic to me. I think had Fennec used some type of gadget or something to kind of stun him or catch him off guard, that would have been a lot more believable. But just having her toss him like that, it made Wrecker look really weak in that situation, and it wasn't really realistic because we've seen what Wrecker's capable of. And like I said, he is the Bad Batch's muscle for a reason. He could easily handle any of the members of the Bad Batch, so he should have been able to handle Fennec there, no question. So that was my only kind of gripe with the episode, but overall, it was solid. We got to see a lot. It was great to see Fennec. It was great to see Pantora again. We're starting to see a little bit more of what's going on in terms of Omega being sought after. I said it many times in the episode, but I do think the Kaminoans might be behind it. It's possible that it could be the Empire as well, but it doesn't seem like Fennec was trying to kill her. She was trying to, I think, abduct her. And so if it was the Empire that had hired her, they probably would have hired her to kill her. So the Kaminoans, they're the most likely people in my eyes that would have hired Fennec. But you guys let me know what you thought down below in the comments. As always, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe as well. And thank you as always for the comments. I do read them and I respond to as many as I can. I enjoy listening to what you guys have to say about the episode and what you think. I learn a lot from you as well, and I like your insight and appreciate it. So yeah, it's always good to keep the discussion going. And until next time, guys, I will see you next week for the next episode of The Bad Batch. Take care.